Welcome to today's tutorial where we are going to discuss how to create a professional timeline. And this is super easy and it is so simple to do in Microsoft PowerPoint. So follow along throughout this tutorial and enjoy this neat trick that you can use to optimize your slideshows. We have a blank work page to start our timeline on, and the first step that we are going to do is to head to the insert tab at the top of our ribbon, and we want to insert a shape. And for this, I'm simply going to insert a line, and I'm just going to drag this line so that it meets the end of our page on the right hand side. So I want this to cover sort of like 2/3, depends on your spacing of your points, but this is sort of where we want this line at. And then we can simply head to the shape outline, and you can then just add some weight to this line. And I'm just simply going to select our 6 points there, and then you can as well change the color of this line if you want to, but at the end of the day you can do whatever adjustments you want to this timeline. So now that we have our simple line drawn up, next step would be to insert our next shape that we want to use. So I'm just heading to the basic shapes, and from here you can then select whatever you would like. For this, I'm simply going to select a hexagon, and then I'm just going to draw this shape randomly somewhere on our page. So from this, I'm just going to head up to the shape fill and then change the color of this, and I'm just going to remove the outline of the shape as well. So once you've done this, you can simply drag this shape into place on our timeline, and this would be our first point on our timeline. So once you've done this, I'm simply going to then head to the insert tab once again and insert a text box, and this would be a text box within my hexagon, and this is going to be my numbering. So let's just increase or change the font of this and increase this to something that can actually work. We can actually bump this up as well if you would like. Let's just select our text there, and this seems sort of right. So now that we've done with this, you can then just center this number on in your shape that you would like. And then from here, I'm simply going to select the number. I'm going to hold in the control button on my keypad. I'm going to select my shape as well. And from here, I'm going to group. I'm going to right click and group these shape and this number together. So from here, it's just easier to copy and paste this shape with a number in it at whatever place you want on your timeline. So then again, once you've done your grouping, I'm simply going to copy and paste two of these shapes as well. So let's just paste that one somewhere around there, and then we can start to move this, and so that we can have equal spacing throughout this section. And now I'm simply going to change my numbers on these shapes to match everything that is going to take place. So now that we have our shapes done here and we've got our timeline set up, the next step that I'm going to do is to insert a text box. And this can be anywhere. You can simply just drag a text box, and then you can, for example, type in whatever text you would want. So once you've done this, then again, I'm simply going to copy and paste this text box, and I'm going to move this to the ends, to our points that we want to discuss. So as you guys can see, we are doing like a little staggered thing here where our first point will be discussed at the top of our timeline, the second would be down here, and the third back up there. So you can mix and match this, and you can change your timeline. You can set your timeline up at the top of your slideshow, it doesn't really matter. This is the beauty of PowerPoint. You can do whatever you feel matches your needs. So this is just a basic example, and you can then play around with this and improve whatever you would like on the slide. So now that we have our, let's just change these numbers so that it does not confuse everyone. So you've got your descriptions of your points that you want to discuss within your slideshow, and you have everything set up here, and you are ready to take the next step. So it's quite simple. The next part of this is going to be to simply right click on your slide and then duplicate the slide down here. So for our second slide, I'm simply going to select my line option and I'm going to drag it to the other end. So as you can see, now this line is touching on the left hand side and it's running through to our next point. So once again, from here, you can simply then just change your numbering that you want for these points. You don't need to include numbering, it doesn't really matter, but this just helps to demonstrate the flow of this timeline. So once we complete all of our text and everything, we can then we have this next step. So our timeline is sort of complete at this stage. I know I haven't entered any important text or anything, but you can add titles, you can add pictures, you can add whatever text you would like and play around with this PowerPoint presentation here. But this is the basics of the timeline. And just to note something, if you have, for example, in this example, we're covering 6 points. So obviously 3 points on the first slideshow, 3 points on the next slideshow. If you have more points that you need to discuss, you can always extend this line right through. So let's just imagine this for a moment. I'm extending this line right through my slideshow, and then I'm going to duplicate the slide once again and then drag the line to whatever points are left. So you can have this continuous timeline. It's not only 2 slideshows that you can do. You can have this great timeline over 3 slides or 4 slides, depending on how many talking points you have on your presentation. But for this, I'm simply going to undo that. So now that our timeline is sort of complete, we can head to our next step. So our next step would be to select both of these slides on the left hand side. As you can see, they are selected now. And then I am going to head to the transitions section. And with this, I'm going to use the push transition. So the default would be to move to from bottom to top, but we can head then to the right and head to the effect options. And this section, I'm going to select from right. So now that you can see that once you have done this and you have your effect from your right hand side, then your slideshow will continue to the right hand side and it will just look like you have this seamless transition on your timeline. And this is a great option to use and to create a more professional looking timeline when you have to present timelines in your workplace or wherever you need to apply this. But I hope you enjoyed this trick today. I hope you enjoyed this method and using the push transition to get everything done. If you did, please remember to like the video down below. That would really help the YouTube algorithm get this video out to more people. And as always, please remember to subscribe to our channel so that you do not miss any of our new and upcoming content. But thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, cheers.